Chapter 6. Secrets of the Order of Assassins. Alamut Fortress, 1095. In a cavern hidden behind a waterfall lay a wondrous garden grown upon bones. A young assassin, drugged with opium, wandered among blossoming trees where half-clothed girls fed him grapes, sang low songs, and whispered promises. "Paradise," he laughed, gasping for air. "I can see it. Warm wind, scents of flowers, tender hands, everything felt too real to be a dream. But when the drug's grip loosened, he woke in a damp barracks. Coarse straw instead of silk cushions. The smell of sweat and weapon oil instead of fragrant roses. Hassan ibn Sabbah leaned over him. "The Imam has shown you paradise, my son." His voice was soft but commanded. "Now be worthy of it." The youth closed his eyes, feeling a tremor run through his body. Now he understood what it was worth to die for. Yasir, Hassan's younger son, sat in a cellar lit by a weak candle. With trembling fingers, he raised a bottle of wine to his lips. "Forbidden fruit," he whispered, then took a cautious swallow. The bitterness burned his throat. He bared his teeth as if expecting the heavens to open and strike him with lightning. But nothing happened. "Why forbid what you yourself partake of, father?" Yasir smiled and took another sip. The door slammed open and the candle flared, throwing quivering shadows across the walls. Hassan stood in the doorway. Moonlight from the latticed window made his face pale, almost ghostly. "You knew." Yasir scoffed, but his hand trembled and wine spilled across the stones. "You always know." Hassan's voice was calm. "Punishment cleanses the soul." He made a barely perceptible sign to the guards. "Gather the assassins." Hall of Justice, Alamut. The air here was always icy, as if hewn from a block of eternal mountain ice. Tall, bare walls of black basalt swallowed the light of the few torches. Their tongues flickered like ghosts and threw gigantic, dancing shadows. Thick, blood-red carpets underfoot muffled footsteps. In the center of the hall, upon the bare stone, Yasir, Hassan's younger son, knelt. His shoulders quivered, his face was wet with tears, but his mouth was set in a stubborn line. Defiance or despair? Hassan ibn Sabbah sat upon a plain stone throne. His face, lit from below by the wavering flame, resembled a mask of ancient wax. Not a single crease betrayed him. He looked at his son with a long, viscous gaze, as if weighing not only a crime, but something far deeper. Then, barely moving, the old man of the mountain inclined his head toward Zarif, his silent shadow in black robes and a shema. Hassan's lips moved without sound. Zarif, standing like a statue at the foot of the throne, only barely nodded. Silence became absolute, ringing. Even the torch flames seemed frozen. Zarif moved, not stepped. He glided, sliding soundlessly across the bloody carpets. His black silhouette detached from the wall and covered Yasir like the wing of a giant bird. The youth flinched, drew his head into his shoulders, but did not lift his eyes. He awaited sentence, a word, the lash of a rod. But not this. Zarif halted an arm's length away. His left hand rested slowly, almost caressingly on Yasir's crown, as if calming him. With his right, stretched along his side, the narrow Dabi blade gleamed from the folds of his cloak. For a moment, Yasir relaxed beneath the touch. A stroke, quick, sharp, like lightning striking in silence. Not a blow, a precise movement as if a reaper were cutting a stalk. The hissing whistle of steel parted the air. Yasir's hoarse, broken cry tore out after his head had already been severed from his shoulders. The body convulsed, hung a spasmodic instant, vertical upon the knees, as if refusing to accept the end, then collapsed onto the slabs with a dull, wet thud like a sack of grain. The head rolled across the stone, thudding, and came to rest, face up. The eyes were wide open, bewilderment frozen there, mingled with childish terror. A red gush poured from the neck, slapped against the stone, and instantly spread into a broad, shining pool that lapped the edge of the nearest carpet. Zarif stood motionless. His blade, clean and dry, was already concealed. Only a single drop of blood, bright crimson on the dazzling white silk fringe of his belt, slowly bled into a dark stain. He dragged the blade with a slow, repulsive scraping motion across that spot, as if wiping away the very evidence of the strike. Shh! Shh! The sound was unbearably loud in the tomb-like silence. About 20 assassins lined along the walls hunched their heads deeper into their shoulders, their eyes fixed on the cracks between the floor slabs, and refused to glide toward the place of execution. Not all were honored to be present, only the chosen, those whose souls had already been burned to cinders in the forge of obedience. Only Ali, Hassan's elder son, standing nearest the throne, froze. His composed face contorted into a grimace of disbelief and primitive horror. His eyes, wide, darted from his brother's severed head to the pool of blood, to the still body, and finally to the immobile figure of his father upon the throne. "You killed him!" Ali's voice fell to a whisper torn with strain. "You killed your own son." Now he shouted, driving his gaze into Hassan's face, searching for any spark, anything. But Hassan was calm, carved from rock. Only his eyes, two black abysses, bore through him. "He broke the law," the old man's voice rasped like dried parchment. "He drank wine. He was weak." "Weak?" Ali stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Your servants drug people with opium. They stupefy our brothers with tales of paradise where harlots roam. And my brother merely drank wine. Where is your justice, father?" Hassan rose slowly, as if lifting the heaviest burden. His shadow leapt up the wall, covering the group of assassins. They involuntarily recoiled. His voice sounded like steel bared to frost. "You step beyond the line, Ali." Ali smiled bitterly, grinding his teeth until they ground. "Step beyond? You crossed it long ago, turning us, your sons, into obedient slaves, into blunt instruments of your mad power." His voice thundered beneath the vaults. The assassins held their breath, exchanging side glances. "You buy orphans, maim the poor who have no choice. They serve you out of blind fear, afraid even to think they serve not an immortal imam, but a cunning, cruel old man in a mountain cage. But I am not afraid." Hassan's face went chalk white, as if a frost had touched his skin. For a moment his back, always straight, bowed. Ali took an instinctive step back, but a contemptuous smile twisted his lips. "In truth, you are a coward. You send others to die while you tremble in your impregnable lair. You hide behind the will of an imam who never showed himself. You built a cult of lies." At these words, several apprentices, fearing to raise their eyes to Hassan, swallowed nervously. The silence turned funeral, oppressive. Their teacher, burning with fury, pointed at the sun with a trembling finger. "Where were you when Malik Shah's wars besieged these walls?" Ali roared, making an angry stride forward. His knuckles whitened. "Why did you not go out and show us how to die for the faith? Why?" Whistle, faster than a serpent's strike. Zarif took one step, one sweep. The curved blade flashed in the dim light, slicing the air with a short, hissing sound. Ali's head fell from his shoulders, strangely easily. The body froze a moment, then went limp and collapsed heavily beside his brother. The head hit the stone with a dull, vile thud, rolled across the slabs leaving a red trail, and rested face up before the throne steps. The eyes were wide with astonishment, not horror. Slowly, as if under a spell, the assassins lifted their heads. Their gazes slid from the head to the body, from the body to Hassan. The old man of the mountain turned away. He stared at the blank wall of black basalt, as if seeking an answer there. His spine, always erect, bowed for a moment. Throw his body to the dogs, his voice was even, but his eyes burned with a feverish light. He who speaks ill of his faith is not worthy of a grave. In that instant, something important collapsed inside him, but he could not allow himself weakness. Never. The birth of a legend. The servants brought before Hassan his double, a Bedouin, dressed in the spotless robes of the old man of the mountain, stood before him with a vacant gaze. The opium had already begun its work. Hassan watched him in silence for a long moment. "You will be me," he said quietly. The Bedouin did not answer. His lips trembled, but no words came. The servants led him away. Hassan rose and turned toward the hidden corridor leading down into the underground halls. Moments later, a thunderous roar spread through the citadel. "The old man of the mountain! The old man of the mountain!" Hassan could not see it, but he knew what was happening. His double had stepped onto the balcony. The crowd below greeted him with ecstatic cries. He raised his hand, and at that very instant the servants lurking in the shadows touched fire to his robes, soaked in oil and resin. The flames caught at once. The Bedouin screamed, not in pain, for he scarcely understood what was happening. His mind drowned in the smoke and the haze of opium. The people froze in horror, watching their master burn, a living sacrifice. When the fire died down, only a blackened form remained, collapsing slowly upon the stone floor. Then, silence. A silence so deep it seemed one could hear the trembling of the lamps within the fortress. Into that silence he came. The real Hassan. The same face, the same robe, but alive. Light flared behind him, as if heaven itself bore witness to a miracle. He raised his hands, his voice calm and resonant, the voice of a prophet returned from the grave. "Fear not, my faithful. Allah has granted me power over death." For a heartbeat, the crowd stood motionless. Then came the roar, deafening, wild. They fell to their knees, stretching their hands toward him, shouting, "Allahu Akbar! The great old man of the mountain! He is the chosen one! He is immortal!" Some wept, others laughed in ecstasy. One man tore his robe apart, another fainted. One old man plunged his dagger into his own chest, eager to follow his master into eternity. His body fell at the foot of the tower, but his death was drowned in cries of rapture. The assassins gazed upon their lord, and their faith hardened like steel, and those who still harbored doubt kept it to themselves. From that night on, no man within Alamut dared question that Hassan ibn Sabbah held dominion over death itself.